Welcome to the Receivables and Payables training for RB9. Before we get started and actually start looking at the receivables and payables differences in workflow, I thought we'd spend about 10 minutes here and just kind of get you acclimated to RB9 to show you the visual differences between RB8 and RB9, navigation differences, and how the functions actually open and things like that, how you look at data and retrieve data. As you know, RB9 is a full web-based application, so no longer do you have to actually install an RB program. So that is gone, okay? All you need is an internet browser and an internet connection, and you can use RB from wherever you are. So that means a desktop PC, a laptop, a Mac, a MacBook, a tablet, even technically your phone. Your phone, you can even use RB9 if you really needed to. So you'll be accessing RB9 via a website, just like what you're looking at now, okay? And you'll be able to log in using your same RB8 credentials, or it can be set now to accept your email address as your login too, okay? Depending on how your company wants to handle that. Now, when you initially log into RB9, you'll notice all the menus at the top. So we don't have any more of those little quick launch icons. You're just going through the menus to open up the application. And if you take a look at the menus, a lot of them are the same, okay? Same order, same list of them. And for the most part, most of the functionalities built in to each of these menus is pretty much the same. There may be some little differences in the wording, but for the most part, they're the same name. We didn't want to try to confuse you guys too much with giving you all new function names and putting them in different places so you can't actually use the system and have to learn just using the system all over. So we kept that the same for the most part, and we tried to keep searching the same as well. So you can retrieve the data in the same manner that you're currently doing in RB8. Now, two noticeable differences to the menus I'll mention real quickly. Entities, this is a new one. Basically all this stuff was under setup in RB8, so we just move it to its own menu heading. And then Connect, which you probably won't use very much, is if you guys have RB Connect, which is called RB Web for your current version, then these are all the Connect functionalities. They were all under Tools in RB8, so now we just kind of made it their own. Okay. In RB8 at the top left, your first menu is actually called Personal. Where in there you had your user preferences, your message center. That can be found now at the top right where your name is. Whoever's logged into RB at the very top right, you put your mouse cursor over your name and you'll see your personal options as far as the functionalities go. So you have your notifications and messages in here, your user preferences, and of course you can do things like log out and close all of your open functions if you need to. Okay, so let's open up some functions. And again, I'm not really opening up anything in particular, just opening up random stuff, okay? I just want to show you that when you open up functions in RB9, it's a lot like RB8. When a function opens in RB9, all of your search criteria are on the left-hand side, and the right side is reserved for your results pane, okay, for all the results. Searching is the same. Like I said, most of the functions have the same search criteria that you guys are used to. You can mix and match the search criteria in the same manner that you're used to. Data will display in the same manner you're used to, either like in a grid layout functionality where it had columns and rows, or some functions will be actual reports. To give you an example, let's go to Invoice Inquiry. I'll go back in time a little bit and pull up some invoices, and you'll see columns and rows of data, just like RB8. Exporting capabilities when it's a grid layout is still the same. There's an export button at the very bottom right down here, where if you click it, you have your options to export to Excel or as a CSV file. Let's talk about some differences in looking and opening up detail screens, okay? So the detail screen, or what you're looking at here, if I wanted to open up one of these invoices and get to the detail screen, right? You would normally in RB8 double click something with your left mouse button or right click and view. Well, in RB9, that's totally different, okay? Right-clicking is gone and double-clicking is gone. And that's because you're in a web browser interface, okay? So as an example, if you're on any other website, can you double-click anything to open it? No. Can you right-click and view it? No. You can right-click and open in a new tab or a new window, but you can't physically view something like that, okay? You always have to click a link, and that will give you your options, right? You click a link to go to a next page. You right-click a link to open up in another tab. That's the same thing in RB9. RB9 is in a website. So standard double-clicking to try to open something that's not a link doesn't work. So don't bother double-clicking in RB9. Don't bother right-clicking too, because if I just right-click randomly anywhere, these are my options. These are Chrome options. I'm using Google Chrome as my internet browser. The browser controls right-clicking, okay? If I need to open up a detail window, there's always going to be a clickable link. And in this example, the invoice number is the clickable link, the blue number. Notice when I put my mouse cursor over it, it changes from the arrow to the hand because that means it's clickable, right? Anywhere else you notice that I move around where it's not the blue one, it's just the arrow. That's all it is, right? So if I want to open up this invoice, I simply click on the blue link, and that will open up this particular invoice detail screen, okay? Now notice at the very top, next to the functions that are open, the actual detail windows, or what tells you what you have open, is always at the top now. So all functions will be listed at the top that you have open in tabs, and any detail window that you have open will be included in that view. So actually, if I go back to invoice inquiry, I can open up more invoices, and you can see it's a lot easier to me in this version to see what you have open, because again, everything's in the same level as all the other tabs, right? So to me, it's easier to view in RB9 compared to RB8, because if you think about RB8, everything was open at the bottom, right? And you had to click on the RB8 icon. It would show you a little preview of what you had open. Then you had to click on it to get to it. So this is a lot easier to see, a lot easier to manage. Everything, instead of opening on top of each other, like RB8 does, they open to the right. They keep opening up the tabs to the right, okay? So what does that mean for actually opening up screens and navigating them? Well, it means that you can open up as many as you want. In RB8, you can only open so many. If you were on top of one and on top of another, on top of another, eventually you would get to a point to where you could not open up any more detail windows or navigate somewhere else because one of them locked you in. You would have to close it and then you can navigate. Well, that won't happen in RB9. You're free to navigate wherever you want. Okay? So now let's talk about working inside of a detail screen. Like for example, we're viewing an invoice here. Okay? Now, if you ever open up a job in RB8, if you ever open up an invoice detail in RB8, if you ever open up a firm, a contact, a resource, there's all this information in the form of tabs at the top. The tabs go left to right. And if I relate the invoice inquiry detail screen from RB8, it went general, additional, witness, resource pay, invoice level repository, whatever, something like that. But they were all tabs at the top going left to right. Notice in RB9 when you open up a detail screen, there are no tabs at the top of that view. Everything just goes top to bottom in RB9, and it's broken down into the same sections that RB8 has. So here's the general section, which would have been the general tab. Scroll down. Here's additional. Scroll down. This is the orders. This is the resource pay. This is the receivable transaction, the invoice repository, and the notes log. So everything is basically in the same order that it was from RB8. It just goes top to bottom instead. So no more tabs going left to right because we already have tabs right above it. We can't support that. Now, that's a lot of scrolling. So if I want to get back to the top of this window, does that mean that I have to scroll all the way like that? No, you don't have to do that, okay? So I actually have a shortcut for you, something you should get used to doing that will help you navigate that particular screen, okay? So right now, if you look at the top left of the screen, I'm in View Invoice. If you click right here, no matter what you're in, whether it's a job, whether it's viewing a resource or viewing a firm, always click right here. In RB below Expand All, right here, these are all the sections. Just like, these are basically the tabs from RB8 in that detail window. So they're just broken down in the sections. So if I wanted to get down to see the resource paid for this invoice, I could click right here and it jumps me right there. I want to get back up to the top and go to the general, click it right there. So that will really save you some time and be a little bit easier on the eyes for you in navigating the RB9 detail screens. Now, when you open up a detail screen in RB8, you're used to really having all flexibility to be able to change data. And you can really, it opens up most of the fields and you can input something to make a change. In RB9, that is different. When you open up a detail screen, you're in what's called view mode. That's why it says view invoice. So view mode doesn't allow you to make any changes to anything. You're just viewing the data. That's all you're doing. Okay? If you want to make changes to a record that you're in, you must click edit at the top right. And that will change it from view to edit. So now from view mode to edit mode. And you'll see some of these fields here now, I can go through and I can manipulate the fields. Okay? So view mode, edit mode. Get used to that. Everything opens in view mode. Click edit to enter edit mode. All right, so let's close all this stuff. Close all tabs. So the first part of this training, we're going to talk about receivables. Now, I'm not going to talk about a lot of stuff in here because a lot of this stuff is exactly the same. I'm going to touch base on mainly the ones that I know most people use, okay? And as far as workflow goes, entering payments, doing other transactions. We'll talk about daily registers, sending aged AR, send statements. Everything else is basically the same. Resource billings report is the same. Actually, daily register is the same. Daily balance log is the same. Monthly journal is the same. Client account activity, paid invoices, voided invoices, and collection letters. They're all the same. Everything's the same. I'll touch base on the main workflow items and show you some of the differences. The first one being that first function right here, receiving payments. Okay? So receive payments is where you put the payments that you receive into the system and you apply them to the invoices, right? Now, what you want to do when you want to start putting a payment into the system is you want to click New. So noticeable right away is this particular screen, has how different it is. You're used to having two options when you want to enter a payment. One check paying one invoice and one check paying multiple invoices. Now, if you look here, that's gone. We just simply enter the check information and run with it. That's all you do. Okay? So, let's say, and in my examples, I'm going to use the first one, we're going to, well, most of them are actually going to have the full check amount is paying the full invoice amount to make it perfect. So let's say I'm going to start entering a check. I received a check from Berg Steiner paying an invoice. And they gave me all the information, the invoice number, they gave me the check amount, everything, right? So I'll start here. Payment type is going to be check. Transaction date defaults to today. Payer is a lookup. You look up the firm that's paying it. So I can click lookup firm, Berg Steiner. Now, this is not a required field, and I'll show you why after I do this one. Okay? Something new here, retainer amount. If you use retainers, and if the firm has a retainer tied to them, when you select the firm as the payer, we'll show you how much of a retainer amount is sitting there tied to the firm. So that's one benefit of using the payer field, because we'll look back at that firm that you selected to show you if there's any retainer amount sitting there that maybe you want to use and apply to this invoice you're about to pay off. Okay, so RBA didn't have that. If you used a retainer, you're pretty much on your own to figure out what retainer amounts are tied to who. Okay. But anyways, I'm going to continue this one. So we'll go check number, blah, 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 blah. And my amount, I'm going to do $1,204.64. Check, whatever, it can be a day ago. And made by, I'm going to leave it because the payer's Berg Steiner. I would only use that if it was like third-party payer and insurance is paying it, something like that. So once you have the check information entered, go ahead and click Save. And RB is going to take you to a place to the right where you're searching for the invoice now that you want to apply to this check. So remember, when I entered this payment over to the left, I set Bergsteiner Chapman as the payer. By doing that, over to the right, RB flags Bergsteiner as the bill to firm, and it pulls up all of Bergsteiner's invoices by default. So really, if they gave me more information, like they gave me the check amount, right? I know it's perfect, 1204.64, right? 1204.64. I know it's exact. I can search that, and it will pull up the one invoice. If I would have known the invoice number, right, I could have put that in here instead of doing that amount. Oops. 16542. Well, it's going to return the same data. So, is Bergsteiner Chapman being here absolutely unnecessary? No, it's not, because you can search by invoice amount from and to. You can search by the exact invoice number if you know that. The only benefit of having Bergsteiner in here is so that if you don't know the invoice number, RB will show you all of their open invoices, and you can kind of make your decision on which one you're paying. I happen to know it's this one right here. So I can click on this invoice number, because again, I said I was paying the perfect amount. And RB will try to credit as much to the balance as it can. So if we look over here to the left, the balance on this check is $1204.64. My goal and your goal, anytime you're entering a payment, is to get that balance down to zero. So whether the balance of the invoice is perfect like mine is, and I apply it, it'll go down to zero. If they overpaid me by 20 cents, and it would have left a 20-cent balance here, I always want to make sure I put that 20 cents in overpayment, right? You always want the money going somewhere. That's how you should be able to post it. The transaction must balance out. Credit towards invoices, but if there's leftover money, you have to put it in the overpayment field or apply it to another invoice. Okay? When you click apply, if that balance goes to zero, this whole section on the right will close. Why? Because there's nothing else to apply towards the check anymore. I just zeroed it out. If there is still a balance on that left-hand side, that right-hand section will stay open because RB realizes that transaction is not balanced. There's still money sitting there that's not applied to something. So let me show you what I mean by that. Let me just hit apply. And it's going to close it. See, right? So if you look at my balance on the check, zero. Shows me the invoice down here that it was applying to, and the balance of the invoice is zero. So you can save this one and get out. So if you click search, which you should always be doing too, it will show you whatever payments are in the system. And if you expand that payment, you'll see what invoices actually applied to it. So let's do another one, okay? I'm going to do one now where I'm not going to set the payer. I have the check info. I know the invoice number. I don't need to do the actual payer. Click New. Get a check. Transaction date, fine. Put my number there. My amount this time is going to be $103.30. Check date can be yesterday. Save. No criteria because I didn't set the payer, so RB doesn't know what to put there in the bill to, okay? But I didn't ask for that because I already know the invoice number, right? So I can simply just go straight right here, put in my invoice number. Again, this one happens to be perfect. 103.30 balance, 103.30 balance. Click it. Apply, and here's something different that'll happen. RB's asking me, hey, do you want to use the selected invoices bill to as the payer? Since I left that payer field on the payment, right, blank, it's asking me if I want to copy the bill to that payer. So sure, why not? They are the ones that paid it. It was their invoice. That will close it because the balance is zero. Now Bergsteiner's up here. And I can click save and continue about my day, right? So I got payment number 2 in there. Let's do one more scenario with payments. We're going to pay one check paying multiple invoices. Okay? And I have the invoice numbers again. So again, we're going to click New. Okay. Enter my check info. I'm not going to do the payer. I have the invoice numbers already. $945.70 is the amount. And check date was, let's say, 2 days ago. Save it. All right. Invoice number 16549. There's one of them. Click the invoice number, apply. I want to set the bill to as the payer, yes. So that left a balance, see, $261.80. So that's why this is still open, because RB's like, hey, you still got money to apply. Get it done. 16543. Again, this one happens to be perfect. Apply. And it'll close. Piece of cake. Now, I know what you're saying. I can hear you. I like one check for one invoice more. You put the invoice number and you click the binoculars, bam, you just go, right? Hey, don't worry, I like it better too. Just so you know, that is coming back to the system. That is on our Q4 update list, so that will be coming shortly, and you will either have it shortly in your system, or by the time you start testing RB9 and utilizing it, it will be there. So one check for one invoice is coming back. Otherwise, you'll still use this process here to enter the full check amount if you're doing one check paying multiple invoices, because that's basically the same thing. Okay. So have no fear, that is coming back for you. Now, of course, end result, check all, post. Want to get rid of everything, successful. You guys, when you click search, always make sure it says this when you're done. You never want to leave anything unposted unless you know for a fact you're not done with it, right? Because you want to post transactions to be able to reconcile your deposits. Let's now look at receivables, other transactions. So, other transactions are your credits, your debits, your voids, your write-offs, your duplicate payments, your miscellaneous receipts, your refunds, right? Same exact function as RB8. Nothing even changed here. It just looks different. That's it. New at the top right. Here's your options. Credit, debit, duplicate, refund, miscellaneous receipt, void, and write-off. Nothing should really shock you guys here. Let's do a void. Everyone has the void because people make mistakes billing. Void. Always start with the invoice number. 16527. Okay. Gotta void this one. That sure is a nice invoice. Good. Why do we have to void it? Someone needs to learn how to bill right. Just kidding. But anyways, I'll leave that there. You get the idea. Save. Save and close. It will appear on the screen, right? Let's do a debit memo. New. Debit. Invoice number again. 16539. You can debit the full amount. So this one balances 0, went all the way up to 1,071. So RB will try to debit the max it can. You can change that amount if you want, and you can change the remark if you want, but the idea behind it is save and close, is there. Same exact thing as RB8. Nothing should really shock you there. Again, same thing I always do with payments. Always post your other transactions as well. Too many times do I connect to people where I see they don't post their other transactions. So you guys make sure you post them. That's very important. Equally as important as posting payments and invoices. Same deal. So after, of course, you did your payments, you could look at daily registers. Daily registers is basically the same. You always want to look at posted items. Yes, I'll look at today's date for postings. Click search. It's going to give you the same 3 reports as RB8. Sales register, cash receipts register for the payments. Okay. Grand total on the last page. And then you'll have your other transactions as well. Okay, grand total on the last page. So again, nothing should really shock you there. This function is pretty much the same, but I like to show it because everyone should be using this one to reconcile. Let's look at aged AR. Okay? To me, this is one of the best improvements to RB. I love this function. Now, let's talk about aged AR and RB8. It won't take me that long because there's not much to it. Aged AR, you go in there, you click search, it gives you a report, you print it out. You want detail? Sure, turn on detail. It shows you invoices on the report, print it out. That's it, you're done. Is that very useful? Well, some of you think it is because it gives you a phone number and you can call them and you can say, hey, where's my money? But think about all the extra work you have to do. What if you want to do collection letters? You have to go to collections. What if you want to do collection notes? You have to go open up the firm, go to the collection notes, enter your note. What if you want to send them invoices? You have to go to reprint posted invoice. What if you wanted to look at 90-day payment history? You have to go look at payment transactions, right? Client activity, whatever. There's not much, in my opinion, that makes the aged AR and RB8 great. Yes, it was a report, whoop-de-doo. You still have to do the actual work. And you're jumping through hoops in 4 to 5 different functions to get that work done. In RB9, I would like to say we solved that problem. And so what I mean by that is now that aged AR, it's a working function. You can do so many different functionalities all from here. So first and foremost, if I just go in here and click search, this is what it looks like now. It's not a report anymore. You can see all these things are clickable links. So that means I can research, I can do a lot of stuff here. So let me talk to you about the visual differences in the aged AR. Difference number one, which is probably going to make a lot of you happy because this has been asked for many years. Age as of in every version of RB prior to RB9. You can only run the aged AR as of the current date. So if you guys ever called me and say, hey, Jason, what was my aged AR as of December 31st, 2019? I'm sorry, I can't show that to you. Now can I? Yes. Age as of means you can run the aged AR as of any date in the past that you wish. So that's really great. Number one change. Number two, this is standard data up here. These 6 time periods, 1 through 30 days, out to 151 and 180, and then 181 to over. 6 time periods right there. You can now go from 6 all the way to 12. So we're stretching out your detail. Now if you look at the columns at the top, they keep going and going and going. So really, we can get the detail pretty much all the way out, broken out all the way for 1 year. So you can really look at the older stuff and really work on, again, specific time periods and not just a lump sum of everything over 180 days, right? So that'll give you a lot more workable collections abilities there. But let's go back to 6, okay? Because we can see it on one screen. Now, how does this work? Well, you can kind of see it shows you who owes you money, worst clients at the top, or it could be the best. Maybe they pay you, but in this case, no, he owes me so much money, $56,000 that are 181 days or over. So what if I want to work on that account? Or actually, you know what? Let's work on Pearson Inspector. I don't want to be so greedy. I'm going to work on this one right here, 61 to 90 days old. They owe me $10,000 for invoices that are 61 to 90 days old. So I want to work on their account. So what should I do? Well, let's look at their payment history. Have they even been paying us? Because if they've been paying us, I don't think I need to call them, So I can go next to Pearson Inspector Actions. Let's look at their 90-day payment history. Well, they haven't been paying me in 90 days because this looks back at all transactions for that firm for the last 90 days. So they haven't been sending me any money, so that's not a good sign, right? If I wanted to do collection letters for them, I could do it right here. Takes you directly to the collection letters and shows you all their invoices where you can simply check all or check some of them. And you can do 1 collection letter per invoice or 1 collection letter for all the selected invoices, however you want to do it. So you can get to collection letters from the aged AR. Again, like I said earlier, you could do the 90-day payment history. If you need to look at their account specifically, go to client activity. But what about the specific invoices in this time period right here, 61 through 90? Well, this is where I think aged AR really shines, because if I click on this number under 61 to 90, RB pinpoints that exact time period, right? It gives me their warnings. It gives me their phone number. It gives me them. I call them and say, hey, this invoice is 61 to 90 days old. It's $10,000. If it was $10, I might let it slide. But you owe us $10,000. You haven't been sending us any money in the past 90 days. What's going on? Maybe they tell you, well, can you send me the invoice? I don't even know what you're talking about. Oh, you know what? I can check that off right here. Hit send invoices. And where do you want that sent? Chris@omti.com. Open invoice. Whatever it's going to be. Open invoice. Send it. And there it is. There's your invoice right there attached. Of course, you could say something if you wanted to. Send. I sent that. They can review it even with you on the phone, right? Say, oh, you know what? I'm going to send you some money. All right. When are you going to send me that money? Well, we're going to send it to you next week. So, okay, you know what? I need to make a collection note about this conversation. Go to View Firm. Edit. Go down to my Collections section. And I can enter a new note. Call was made. Talk to Harvey. And he promised to pay, oops, I can't spell. Ignore my spelling, by the way. To pay, you know, maybe he's going to pay half it, $5,000 by October 2nd, whatever, okay? Save. Made my collection note. Payment promised, he sure did. He said $5,000, right? And he said by October 2nd, let's say. Okay, so you can set a payment promise date, and of course that has to do with the forecast, right? So you can forecast what you expect to be coming in based on those promises. But that's the beauty behind the aged AR. It's more than just a report. You can actually do all your research, jump to different functions, all from within here. And all the while, if I'm done with this account, that's fine. Close this. I'm back to my main screen. I can move on and work on the next client, right? So that's why it's so wonderful. That's why we like it. Now, if you need this in some kind of fashion outside of RB, there's no principal report for this. What you can do, though, is at the top right, you can click Export with Invoices. And it'll basically save a copy to your computer or download a copy in Excel format. And if you open it, it will be a display of your aged AR with invoices. Okay? So there you have something, at least to get it out of the system. But don't do that. You don't need to. You can just use this. It's fine. Okay. So I hope you guys like that function. And like I said, I really like that function. I think it's fantastic. Okay. Let's look at a couple more things. Send statements. It's a little different, and I'll tell you why. Basically, I don't know what my statement types are, but you can click search. And you'll notice here, you have print and email options here. So there's no longer the checkboxes where one column is print, one column is email, one column is both. And the reason why is because a web browser interface, it can't handle doing a print job and an email job at the same time. If I'm going to choose one, it has to do all of those together. It won't be able to break them down. Go print, email, print, email, print, email. So whatever you're going to do, check off what you want. Print them if you want to, email them if you want to, but do them as separate commands. Hopefully we're into somewhat of a modern era and your clients don't want printed statements anymore because that's just wasting too much paper. Printing should go away. Email everything, guys. Hopefully you are. Okay. I mean, the rest of the stuff is pretty much the same. Like I said, daily balance log is the same. Monthly journal is the same. Client account activity is the same. Oh, client account activity is a little different. Let me show you that one. Client account activity, if we look at the month of, let's go all the way through this month, September. And let's just do one firm. Client account activity, whatever date range you search, and I only did a firm. It's only now, compared to RB8, going to show you that specific month's activity. Invoices, payments, debits, credits, voids, whatever happened, positive or negative as far as dollar figures go, it's going to show up in client account activity based on the date range that you're searching, post-date range. In RB8, it was basically the same. The difference is that this would show you every open invoice too. So, I mean, if they had open invoices from 2010, it would actually still show up on this list. So now it's a true account activity of what happened in that date range, which personally I like better. Okay. All of the rest of that stuff is self-explanatory. Looking at paid invoices, report, and voided invoices. Let's close all these tabs. Let's talk about payables. Really, if you take a look here, everything's the same, except for the reward point stuff, because that was a plugin in RB. If you want to know about reward points, hit up support and we'll tell you guys. But it's like an incentive program. Most of you won't use it. But other than that, override resource pay, pay adjustments, pay resources, all the way down to liability. They're all the same. Everything's the same, okay? Running payroll is the same process. There's only really one little difference. When you want to start off, you always go to set up pay dates. Your pay dates must be in the system before you can actually run payroll, okay? So it's kind of the same thing as RB8, right? You can go in there and set them. You can set them up before you want to run payroll, or if you're like a lot of agencies, maybe set up your whole entire year so you don't ever have to come back here. But this is all I have for this year. Basically, setting up a pay date is pretty much the same as what you're used to. Payroll date is the date you're paying. So I'll say my next one's going to be 10/15. I pay everybody, so I'll say all. I cut off on the 15th as well. And I include my business units. In this case, I'll just check them all. You can save and new if you want to do more, or just save and close. So you have your pay dates that you need to run. So set those up first. It's the same, okay? And then you still have the same functionalities. Override resource pay still allows you to manipulate the pay tied to an invoice. Or if there isn't any pay, like if somebody messed up when billing, you can add the pay for an invoice there after it's been posted. Of course, if the invoice is already closed on a payroll, then you can't do anything to it. Of course, you can't change that. Pay adjustments allows you to add or deduct money from a specific payroll for a resource. I'll show you an example of this after I show you the pay resources, because something is different there. But let's go look at the payroll process. It's still called pay resources. All you do is go here to where the pay date is, click the lookup pay date button, select your pay date. So I'm going to run my 10/1 here. And I'm going to click search. This is different right here. If you've never run payroll, RB will tell you this. And actually, this is kind of helpful for me or my support staff if you guys are having problems running payroll. This kind of gives us an internal clue of maybe things that could be wrong. But it'll tell you, if no one's ever clicked payroll before and searched on it, no one's ever done it, it'll ask you if you want to calculate it, so you say yes. And this is what the payroll actually looks like. So it's a little bit different than RB8 in that there's no split screen anymore. So we'll just show you who's getting paid, and if you want to see the detail of what they're getting paid, you simply click on their name, and all of their invoices will appear, okay? And whatever's checked, that's obviously included in what makes up this total, okay? If you want to clear the pay, for whatever reason, if I didn't want to pay this one, go to the left of the checkbox and select Set Clear Pay. Obviously, if it's unchecked and I need to set the pay, then I can click here, and now it'll say Set Pay, okay? So nothing really different there. We'll show you everything, all the open invoices. So RB will have the ones checked that are automatically included in the payroll. And of course, you can manipulate invoices as you go. Now let's talk about adjustments, because remember, when you run payroll in RB8, if you ever make adjustments, they do not show up on this particular screen. They don't show up in that grid layout, and they don't show up in that total amount next to the resource name at the top, right? They don't show up there. They only show up when you draft the resource payroll report, okay? So it was kind of hard for you to really tell if the pay adjustments were really added on because you had to look at the report. Now, watch this. So obviously, I think you guys probably know where I'm getting at. Pay adjustments. We'll do one for 10-1. We'll do it for Jason. Nothing there. We haven't made any. So we're going to click New. I'm going to select my resource, Jason. We're going to give him $500. Why? He's the best reporter ever. Save. Now guess what? Go back to Pay Resources. Let me refresh this. Watch this total. There we go. Total's affected now. Click on Jason's name. You see the adjustment in the grid. So it's not a huge change, right? But it's one that definitely helps if you use adjustments because now you see it on the screen. So I like that a lot better than RB8 as you can imagine, right? So it helps with the view. But then your payroll reports, if you want to do like a print office copy detail, this would be what it looks like. Every page is still one reporter. Before you close it, it has the word draft on it still. And you already know what this looks like. It breaks down. This is the detail copy, so it breaks down everything. This one is the office copy, so it has billing amounts and pay amounts tied to it, right? So that's what that one has. Now, if you were done with this particular payroll, what do? You close it, right? Right. So top right, close payroll. Are you sure? I sure am. Yes. Payroll will disappear. You can no longer run that particular payroll. So what do you do next? Well, in RB8, under Payables, you had one in between here called Resource Payroll Report. That one was for printing the Resource Payroll Report, right? Well, we did away with that one. We merged it into Send Resource Pay Statements. Because you have Send Resource Pay Statements in RB8 as well, but that one's just for emailing them to the reporters. Resource Payroll Report is just for printing. So we just combined them into one so you can choose to print or email from this one particular function. So watch this. We'll go Send Resource Pay Statements. Select the pay date. And I just closed 10-1. I can click Search. And then these are my 3 reporters that just got paid. So I can check them off. And here are my options. Print, 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 or email, email. So summary print, or you can print office copy detail, resource copy detail. But emailing, you can only do summary or resource copy without the billing amounts. But this, again, that's usually the 2 you would do anyways if you're going to email it to the resource. You're not going to send them the office copy. So that's the difference there. Lastly on here, I mean, this stuff is still the same. Print checks is still the same, although I doubt any of you print checks from RB. 1099s are still the same. This one allows you to still manipulate the manual adjustments and make adjustments if you need to. This one's for the actual printing on the form. Sales commission report still runs the same. Override is still the same. This is your additional pay report, which is the same. Total payables, one you probably use. You could go into total payable report. It could be office copy or a resource copy, but usually just leave it blank and click search. Every reporter will get its own report. So this is Amanda's, Barbara, so forth and so on. Okay. But these people, obviously, the total payable report, what it is this a report you can give them if they're ever wondering how many invoices are still owed to them. So this is the outstanding payables. That's why it's called total payable report. And the rest of it, like I said, is the same. Sales tax report and liability log. So, I think from the standpoint of receivables and payables, it's not too hard to really learn RB9. Payments are a little bit different as we looked at, but again, we're bringing back one check for one invoice, so that should help. And I think aged AR will obviously take some time to learn, but hopefully you see the benefit in the aged AR because that will really, really save you guys some time and it will really help you work on your accounts a little bit better, I think. And then again, we talked about payables. Payables is pretty much exactly the same. Okay? So if you guys can, if you have access to the demo site, or if you're currently testing your RB9, or if you're about to start testing, run RB9 through your daily routine, whatever you're doing. See what differences come up. If you put a payment in RB8, put it in RB9. See what the differences are. Let me know, or let support know what issues come up, because this is the time you want to take to help you guys iron out your details if we need to meet with you. So, in closing, if you guys have any questions regarding what you've learned today, or if you have any questions in your testing, please email those questions to support@omti.com, or please give us a call. Give us a call, 650-396-2105, and we will help you guys out, okay? We can definitely set some time up to spend with you guys if you have questions and stuff like that. So just let us know. And with that, I would like to say thank you all very much for joining, and enjoy the rest of your day.